Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves, be ye therefore wise as serpents, and harmless as doves. Matthew 10:16. Comment. This verse instructs the apostles to act wise as serpents. Since Christians hold that the serpent in the Bible represents Satan, one might wonder about this. In Genesis 3:1 the Bible describes the serpent as more subtle than any beast. Some early Gnostic heretics believed that Satan and Jesus were the same. They may have used sayings such as this to support their belief. It seems odd that Jesus would resort to the metaphorical sheep instead of sheepdogs or some other noble animal. The awkward fact remains, people raise sheep to either fleece them or kill them for food. To send them, as prey in the midst of marauders hardly seems advisable. Note also that doves actually act just the opposite of harmless. Doves sometimes act viciously against other birds. Beat that slave, and that servant, which knew his Lord's will, and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. Luke 12:47. Comment. Note, the word servant here means slave. The biblical Jesus lived in a time when slavery flourished, yet he never spoke or thought against it. English North Americans embraced slavery because they were Christians, not in spite of it. It was Christianity that perverted the Africans' way of life. Not leaving them alone was the real tragedy. Forrest G. Wood. Burn them. Keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man, who have purposed to overthrow my goings. Psalms 1404. Let burning coals fall upon them, let them be cast into the fire, into deep pits, that they rise not up again. Psalms 14,010. Comment. Such wicked words can justify to the religious person any atrocity including holocausts. Ironically, the words keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked and which verse 10 calls for horrible acts against their enemies, hardly imparts a message of love of thine enemies. Creation contradiction. 1. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Genesis 1:3-5. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. Genesis 1:16-17. Comment. God creates day and night on the first day and then makes the stars and the two great lights, sun and moon, on the fourth day. Genesis 1:19. How can you have day and night on the first day without a star? This describes a dramatic contradiction to the way the actual universe works. To have a day you must have a rotating planet and a Sunday. Genesis proves that God, or more accurately, the authors of Genesis could not have known about the structure of the universe, or even the difference between stars and planets. Creation contradiction. 2. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw, that is was good. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Genesis 1:25-26. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone, I will make him an helpmeet for him. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air. Genesis 2:18-19. Comment. In the first account, man gets created after the beasts. The second account has man created before the beasts. Only a person who exercised warped logic or blind faith could believe this outright contradiction. Yet to the fundamentalist reader, the many hundreds of contradictions and discrepancies in the Bible go by unseen, regardless of how many honest scholars and theologians have discovered otherwise. In fact, there occurs two stories of Genesis. The second story starts at Genesis 2:4. The first story uses Elohim, God in the plural form, and the second story uses the Lord God, Yahweh Elohim, sometimes incorrectly termed Jehovah. Both stories appear markedly different, yet somehow in history the stories got annexed together. This shows the allegorical intent of Genesis rather than a factual account. Even the belief among non-fundamentalists that the Bible has kept its original form despite minor changes has led many theologians to think otherwise. One of the most highly respected theologians, Bruce Metzger, has written extensively on the errors in the Bible. For example, in his book The Text of the New Testament, Its Transmission, Corruption, and Restoration, Metzger asserts errors due to errors arising from faulty eyesight, errors arising from faulty hearing, errors of the mind, errors of judgment, difficulties, historical and geographical alterations from doctrinal considerations, addition of miscellaneous details. Many times whole belief systems and vast changes to a society can change from a simple mistranslation of a single word. For example, virgin got confused in Isaiah 7:14 for young woman Alma. Creation contradiction. 3. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Genesis 1:27. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof, and the rib, which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. Genesis 2:21-22. Comment. In the first account, God created a man and female simultaneously, in God's image. In the second account Adam gets created from the dust, Genesis 2:7, and then later, a woman came from one of Adam's ribs. Again, this shows another difference between the two Genesis story accounts, each contradicting the other. There occurs a plethora of contradictions in the Bible, far too many for the scope of the Dark Bible. For those who wish further edification, consult the Bible Handbook for Free Thinkers and Inquiring Christians, edited by G. W. Foote and W. P. Ball, Pioneer Press, London. Curse the children. And your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms, until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. After the number of the days in which ye searched the land, even 40 days, each day for a year, shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my breach of promise. Numbers 14:33-34. Comment. This cruel curse on children attributed to God, for the sins of their parents, bears the typical harsh vengeful evil spirit that permeates the Old Testament. How can one not conclude that these verses give the greatest insult to a loving God? Eat your children. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee, in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. Deuteronomy 28:53. And toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in thy gates. Deuteronomy 28:57. Comment. Here we have the horrific calling for cannibalism. It comes even more barbaric considering it calls for the devouring of their own sons and daughters. Hardly anyone today accepts cannibalism, yet many fundamentalist Christians would have us believe that cannibalism or some other depravity will result, if we choose not to believe in God or to choose another God. See also 2 Kings 6:28-29. God accepts slavery. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him unto the judges, he shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Exodus 21:5-6. Comment. The Bible bears witness to the fact that God accepts not only slavery but violence against such slaves, in this case all driven through the ear, for the innocent statement of love for their master, wife and children. It came from precisely these verses that justified, in many people's minds, the tortures inflicted on African slaves, when they tried to leave their cruel masters in the American colonies. Good Christians of the day would drive nails and spikes through the ears of defenseless slaves whose only offense came from the will to no longer serve as slaves. Not until after the Civil War did federal laws become enacted to protect African Americans from gross physical abuse. Even today, the KKK and the Aryan race use the Bible as justification for their attacks against Negroes. God condones slavery. Both thy bondmen, and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you, of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Leviticus 25:44 KJV. As for the male and female slaves whom you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire male and female slaves. Leviticus 25:44 NRSV. Comment. The biblical meaning rings clear. God not only condones slavery, but gives permission to buy and own slaves. The southern United States fought the Civil War over such scriptural teachings. The God's creation. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Genesis 1:26, left square bracket bold caps mind, edition right square bracket. Comment. The Bible has a crisis from the very beginning in that biblical translators have chosen to use the word God for the Hebrew term Elohim. The problem here lies in the fact